Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with another Hollywoke hot take. I'm doing two today. This one's more about comic books in Hollywood. So make sure you check out Bitchute and Rumble. I don't know which. I guess this one I'll put on YouTube. So check out Bitchute and Rumble for the other Hollywoke hot take. That one was a little more political, so I put it there. But this one, I kind of can't help but be a little political because it's comic books. And smash like and subscribe. And not only do I have the links to my books, I also have the links to my comic books, including my webcomics, the Webcomic Factory, webcomicfactory.com, Superfrat at superfrat.com. You can also go to my regular website, thefixsite.com, where you can see my print comics, including the Jersey Devil, the Fix, the Travelers. I still have some of them. If you want to buy them, I'll be happy to sign them and ship them out to you, depending on what part of the world you live in. And also, Lester Crenshaw is still dead. That's also still available. What else I got around here? Any more comics? That's about it. I think that's about it. Oh, Rodney, the alien that smoked pot. That's a one-shot. It's very, very small comic, but very funny. But Emilia Clarke, Game of Thrones Mother of Dragons, wants to get in on the comic book world. Whoa, back up, Emilia. Let me tell you my bona fides. I've been publishing comics since 1992. I've been writing comics since way before that. I've written for Bongo Comics. I've written for Kenzer and Company. Even wrote a comic for Image or Comic Story. I've got, credits. Besides publishing, I've been to a million conventions, thousands of fans over the years. I know how to sell comics. I was a marketing director at a comic book company. So I managed a comic book store too for about 2 years. I know the comic book industry. This is not good, in my view. Emilia Clarke's debut comic follows a single mom whose secret weapon is her period. Wah, wah. Yellow Flash did a big thing on this, so I have to defer to him because I wouldn't even heard about it without him. But it's just unbelievable. So listen to the article. As a kid in London, Emilia Clarke got a distinct vibe from her local comic book shop. No girls allowed. Well, as Yellow Flash points out, it's not necessarily the rule. Yeah, that's the vibe because it's mostly guys. Superheroes appeal mostly to guys. Classically, you go into a comic book shop, you talk about Spider-Man, the Hulk, maybe you talk about Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons, maybe you talk about Star Wars and Star Trek, all that geek stuff. It was mostly guys. Yes, there were women in it, but mostly guys. The demographic information classically was 90-10 was the split in comics. 90% male, 10% women. And when a woman came into the store, it was like, ooh, could she be my girlfriend and we could read comics together? Very rarity. Big rarity. And, consequently, it was always a sausage fest at most comic book conventions. Then there was this relentless push to get women in. And how did they get in? Well, cosplay. Cosplay is a big part of it. They love cosplay because it fits in with how women are wired. They love attention. They love dressing up. They love makeup and getting all the attention. They love it. And I don't have any problems with that, but it's not comics. They're not into the comics. I hate to tell you. There are some women, yeah, they're into comics. They're comic book artists and they're total creators. Now, here she says that she did her research. In doing my research, I found that 16% of comic creators are female. Maybe. I don't know the exact stats. That sounds a little low. According to a 2019 study, and only 30% of comic book characters are women. Well, what do you mean only 30%? If there are only 16% of comic creators and 30% of the characters are women, aren't they overrepresented then? Okay. But then she says, on the other hand, roughly half the comic book buyers are female. Let me stop you right there. That number is totally incorrect. Or rather, it's a different kind of number. What they're counting in that percentage is manga. which is probably majority female. Manga comics come out of Japan, and they're almost a distinct, different kind of comic book in their own way. Because what you have to understand about Japan is they have weird pornography laws. And yes, this ties into comics. Let me finish. So, pornography in Japan, it's illegal to show penetration in live action pornography. But it's completely legal if you show it in a cartoon. Therefore, an industry erupted around porno comics to satiate the needs of the Japanese libidos. And guess who buys a lot of porn? You'd be surprised how many women buy it too. So if you run a comic book company in the United States, you're basically losing money. And you start some comics, and you do some superhero comics, and then you go out of business. If you start a comic book company in Japan, what you start with are porno comics. You do hardcore, and they got some hardcore stuff in Japan, let me tell you. You build up the company that way, and then you do non-porno comics, and the porno pays for everything. That's how it works in the business models in Japan. And then, they're tied into cartoons and anime and all that stuff too. But that's the basics in Japan. So when the manga stuff was imported here, it mostly appealed towards women because their comic books are everything. They don't do superhero comics. Superhero comics didn't dominate the landscape in manga. So more of the comics are relationship based. There's more character development because you have to. It's not just superheroes. It's not just these, hey, I'm going to punch people. Their biggest superhero comic is probably One Punch Man, and it's really a parody of superheroes. It's them laughing at us and our ridiculous superhero comics. But they do comics about everything, and because a lot of them are erotic or porno or whatever you want to call them, that's ultimately, they're very lusty and graphic or whatever, but they're also relationship based because the sex ties into that a lot of times. And so women tie into relationships. They love to talk about relationships. Women live for relationships. Most women do. Now, some don't. Some buck the system. Some love comics like I do. They want to see guys punching each other. But most of them don't. Most of them drill down into the relationships. This is why romance novels are not aimed at men. They're just not aimed at men. Would you write a series of romance novels aimed at men? You would go out of business because they're for women. Mostly. Comics, superhero comics, are mostly aimed at men. It's not a crime. It's just reality. But try to tell that to Marvel Comics and the women who work there. They are in the minority. They want to make themselves the majority. They will fail. They will fail. It doesn't matter if they spend the next 50 to 100 years forcing every girl in the United States to grow up on comics. Eventually, what they'll be forced to do is what they're kind of doing now. They're turning superheroes into relationship comics. They're turning the X-Men, they're doing a 12-issue miniseries about the X-Men prom. So, with all that in mind, Emilia Clarke steps into the fray with M.O.M, Mother of Madness, a superhero single mom who, as she says, she's a single mom that wants to get S done. This was born from the idea that single mothers are superheroes. You need superhuman strength to do that. When you get into your 30s and your friends start having kids, you're like, oh my God, I was not aware of what it took. Holy yes. Okay? So she uses her various bodily functions to do stuff. The bloating, the hair growth, the mood swings, the acne, all of it. Ugh, gross. So this is why her period is some kind of superhero thing, and she uses her armpit hair to swing around like Spider-Man. Yeah, no, I'm not making that up. That's in here. I know, it's gross. That is the most disgusting superpower I've ever heard in a while. In fact, I may have heard that before. There was a parody RPG game about superheroes where they had the most the dumbest superhero powers ever. That may have been one of them. That may have been one of them. But now this is like, regular stuff. Another key identifier for the character is all of her powers manifest from her menstrual cycle. Gross. And why? No one wants that. I don't even think women want that. When the Who was touring, the very famous English band, not as famous as the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, but pretty famous, the Who were looking for ways to essentially gross out their female fans and keep them away. So Keith Moon one time covered himself in, I believe it was, I don't know if they were used, but tampons, in order to keep the female fans off of him. And even that didn't work, I don't think, but shows you the power of the Who. But this is, the dumbest thing ever. But I'm sure the woke idiots who are on Twitter love it. Just like they love how the mother of dragons on Game of Thrones was kind of a communist. Sort of, until she killed everybody. But that's communism. So this is just dumb. This is her trying to start an IP, I assume, so she could star in the movie. Another quote, "The people behind it are the best at what they do. It's amazing to be a part of that high pedigree. But Marvel, Star Wars, they all give you fake audition size," Clarke said, referring to script pages actors read for casting directors. "I remember for Star Wars, the character I read was a made-up music producer." I don't know. Look, you don't know what you're doing, Emilia. This is going to be, you'll have a cadre of fans who support you because you're hot. You were on Game of Thrones and people loved it for a while. And, they're not going to love you for this comic. The guys aren't especially. They may tolerate it to get near to you, to get a picture or whatever, but you don't know what you're doing here. Stop. Just stop. I would advise stopping this project 100%. This is dumb. But then again, they may green light the movie, so maybe it's not dumb. Maybe it'll give you money. I don't think people will, read this comic and it'll become like Batman. One of the reasons is superheroes are kind of going away. Junking Jupiter's Legacy illustrates the limits to Netflix superpowers. I would delete the word Netflix and just say superpowers, superheroes. Because what do you see in this picture? These are the superhero characters. Yeah, it's a dumpster, but whatever. You think, oh, this is like an older Superman? This is like an older Wonder Woman? Is that what it's about? Yeah, kind of. And this is Mark Millar, who I'm sure this is pretty decent. I hear it's pretty decent, but I made fun of it when it came out. But I'm just so sick of superheroes. I didn't even watch it. I have Netflix for free. I could have watched it for nothing. I just wouldn't even waste my time. I'm just sick of it. These aren't even like cool superheroes in my view. I would do, the first thing I would ditch is the uniforms. Because who cares? It's different when the boys do it. That's like a parody. They're like destroying superheroes. But this is just, it's more of the same. This would have been a limited miniseries at DC or Marvel. They would have put it out, like Strike Force Moriarty, if you ever read that, which was really good. Something like that. It would have came and went, and that would have been it. And if any of the characters were super popular, maybe they would have, done some event where the characters come into the Marvel or DC universe if they thought they could have jammed them in there. It was already overpopulated, but it's not how comics work. DC League of Super Pets unveils all-star voice cast with Kevin Hart, John Krasinski, Kate McKinnon, and more. Whoopee! Again, this is late-stage comic books, right? DC, once in a while, they'll put out the League of Super Pets, or it'll be a backup story in one of the comics. It's not really its own thing. Yeah, you can make a movie about it. I'm sure it'll be aimed at kids, and it'll be cute and whatever. I don't think it'll be a big thing. What are you doing? This to me is another sign that comics are leaving Hollywood. And finally, promo for Disney Plus series Loki calls shape-shifting Marvel character gender fluid. Now you might say, I'm gonna, you'd expect me to go, oh God, another woke thing. The god Loki, as all the gods are, if you read anything about the Norse mythos, the Greek mythos, or whatever, they all had weird, effed up stuff like this happen to them. Loki was a shapeshifter. Yes, he would, shapeshift into a woman, have sex with you, and then shapeshift back, go, ha ha ha. He was a prankster. That's the kind of weird stuff the gods were into. He also, had kids. One of them's Fenrir, a giant wolf who destroys, as part of Ragnarok, destroys the world at the end of the world. The gods, they'd have sex with animals and appear as golden showers, and I mean, I'm sure Marvel is picking and choosing the things they want just so they could look more woke, but this is no big deal. Again, what are you doing, Disney? Why are you picking this stuff out? Oh, right, because you think everything woke is money, 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 money. It gets you attention. It gets you attention on Twitter, but ultimately, I don't think it translates into sales. You're going to continue to plateau, and you're going to continue to cut back, I believe, on the Disney Plus stuff. It's going to be like, how can we get more crap? How can we get more cheap TV content to, supply our Disney Plus subscribers? Eventually, I guess it'll be YouTube-based kind of stuff. They'll find a group of kids to do some kind of wacky TV show, cheaply done, and it'll be really stupid, but for some reason kids like it. Yeah. Then they'll know the formula. Then they'll just be doing cheap shows out the wazoo. But until then, I guess they're going to keep throwing good money after bad, on top of the fact that Loki is a bad guy. And this transformation of turning every comic book bad guy into a good guy. Venom, Harley Quinn, Loki. I'm sure there are others I'm forgetting. I think there was one or two others, but these are bad guys. So, what are you doing? It's like when, again, in comics, the girls running Marvel Comics turn the X-Men villains and the X-Men into this, we're all the same. We're all the same. We're all mutants. Communism. Hooray! Hooray, communism! Now let's have a prom where they all wear fancy clothes. Nobody wants that. It's not conflict. It's nothing. It's dumbassery, in my view. So this is part of that dumbassery. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Tom Hiddleston is great. I wish they'd give him a real TV show with real scripts behind it. He's fun as Loki. I'm sure the show will be very watchable. I'm not going to watch it, though. I don't want to support Disney or Disney Plus. When it's a rerun on ABC and I can see it for free, maybe I'll watch it. But beyond that, I can't support Disney. But I wish Tom Hiddleston the best of luck. He deserves better. He's a good actor. He auditioned for Thor, apparently, according to Jeremy from The Quartering, who also covered this, which I think is really funny. I mean, it would have been really interesting to see him as Thor. I don't know. I guess he would have had to beef up more, but he's not really Thor, obviously. Maybe if they gave him blonde hair and he grew a beard, he would have looked totally passable. But of course, he's much better as Loki. Casting agents don't lie. Anyhow, that's it. Comics are dying. Come read my comics for free on the Webcomic Factory and Superfat. Yeah, forget all that print stuff. Or buy one of my comics if you're feeling particularly generous. We'll see you in the next one.